I consider that both Incendie and Inshallah were tricky co-productions. They were Middle Eastern set stories, both of them. One in an invented Middle Eastern country, but quite directly based on Lebanon. That's Incendie. There's very little opportunities to co-produce with countries in that region, and because the films Incendie was shot about a third in the Middle East, and Inshallah was shot entirely in the Middle East, or almost entirely in the Middle East, except for 2 days out of 35 were shot in Canada. And we ended up co-producing these films with France, and it was probably the only country that really made sense and where we had good chances of raising money. It was very difficult to finance entirely in Quebec. Or else, we needed to have like almost the maximum from Telefilm and from SODEC. SODEC is our provincial funding body. We're actually pretty lucky to have. They have like real money, and they can put up to $1.5 million. And I'm saying because I know in Ontario it's much more difficult on that level. In terms of expenses. Our tax credit is directly linked to labor expenses we pay to Quebec labor, because we were going to spend a lot of money over there. It was tricky in terms of labor to actually have our maximum tax credit, have enough labor to get our maximum tax credit. Also, there are rules at SODEC that prevents us to spend more than 25% of our Quebec financing outside of Quebec. If you have a co-producer, it actually, if you have an official co-production, it actually changes the rules a little bit, and you take out the part that you finance outside of Canada from the calculation. So if you co-produce, say, eventually we did it at 10% in France. Of all the treaties, which are between, mostly all the treaties are almost all at 20% minimum, up to 30%. Some are at 15%. But there's one for Canada-France co-productions. If your budget level is above $3.5 million, you can come down to 10%. And quite frankly, nowadays, if it wasn't for that, there would be very little co-production with France, because of these limitations I was talking about outside, expenditures outside of Quebec. With our financing, we concluded that we needed to do a co-production with France, and that France was the better country because of the actors and because of Wajdi Mawad, the playwright, and because it's one of the countries where there are a lot of distributors there that release challenging stuff. There's good sales agents there. They have Arte, which is probably the more forward-thinking broadcaster in the world, and they actually co-produce films from all over the world. And for all these reasons, we thought, okay, this is where we're gonna go. The other great thing with France is that there's money reserved at Telefilm and at the CNC for French, for Canada-France co-productions. Your film needs to be not a majority 50%, but a majority in terms of how many languages there are, but it needs to be predominant French. If there were like just 2 languages, and if you have like 51%, you're fine. You can be like predominant by 1%, and you qualify. You know, they probably prefer if you have more French, because the CNC it's one of those things. They'll finance films from all over the world, but the language is a very important thing. On Inshallah, it was a really key thing, and in the end, it became sort of not so important because the CNC barely put any money in Inshallah, barely. So at some point, I think they would have been in a really bad position to impose about the French thing. But on Inshallah, we literally had to, count the lines and make sure at all time that French was predominant. And in the end, and the important thing is not the script. It's in the final film. They actually time the dialogues,
Right.
and it's not. So if you have people like talking really slowly, it's good. I think as Canadian producers, we're more and more interested in telling international stories. We have the expertise. We have the certainly the resources over here, and we're a really interesting co-production partner because we do have, telefilm and the tax credits and a lot of resources that make us really interesting co-production partners. Over the years, we have signed, I think it's something like 55 different treaties with different countries, and some of them have never been used. Most of them have never been used. We're probably the country with the most treaties, and it makes us an interesting partner for Europeans as sort of a bridge to co-producing with these countries like China and like Japan and even South Africa. I think many countries don't have co-production treaties signed with South Africa. So a European partner co-producing with us can actually bring in Japan, for example, into an international co-production. In the context as well, at Telefilm these days, they, and I'm sure you hear that a lot, Telefilm is valuing more and more a market interest in terms of when you come in with a project, they are more and more looking at how much money you're getting from your distributor over here, how much money you're getting from a sales agent, and co-production dollars attached to your project is also valued very much. So if early on you can actually have interest from co-production partners, you will probably not have, specific partners confirmed in your financial structure when you walk into Telefilm. But if you have interest, it's something that will be looked at, and they will consider that in appraising your project.